Hello everyone and welcome to our Chapter 10 study guide. The first problem says use the diagram below to classify each circle part. And we do have a word bank here. And so we're going to be looking at the diagram to the left and we're going to be naming each of these things. And these words can appear more than one time. So I'm going to start and I'm actually going to be a little bit strategic in how I do this because I know that I can look for certain things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the ones that are a single letter. Which ones are a single letter? Well, we have E and we have D. Those are the only ones that have a single letter. Or what are the only options for the ones that are a single letter? You're either going to have a point that is the center or you're going to have a point of tangency. So we just need to go to our picture and see, is that point that they list listed at the center or is it a point of tangency? So let's go to E. Where is E at? E is on the circle and it's got a line going through it that is tangent, meaning it's touching at one time. And so that means that that point must be a point of tangency. Point of tangency. Okay, what is point D? Let's go find that other point. Point D is the middle of the circle, so we're going to call that the center. Okay, so I kind of know what to look for. I've used both of those now. All right, now let's look at lines. I know when I'm looking for lines, the ones that have arrows on the ends of them, so EF and then AE. My only options for lines are going to be a tangent line or a secant line. Those are the two different types of lines that we've learned about. Remember that a tangent touches the circle one time and a secant touches the circle two times. So I'm going to make a note of that. A tangent touches the circle one time, a secant touches the circle two times. But both of those are going to be lines. So let's go to EF in our picture. Here's line EF with the arrows on the end of it. That is going to be a tangent line because it's just touching the circle that one time. Okay, now let's go look at AE. A to E is going through A and through E, and it's touching the circle twice, once at A and once at E. So that is going to be a secant line. That is going to be our secant line. So this just kind of helps me with what to look for. All right, what are our different segments that we've learned about? Here's a segment, here's a segment, here's a segment. Let's see what else just has that segment above it. So those are all of our segments. What are the different things we've learned about that are segments? We know that a radius is a segment, a chord is a segment, a diameter is a specific type of chord, and then all of the other ones are either angles or arcs. So all of these are either going to be a radius, a chord, or a diameter. So what is B to D? B to D is a point on the circle going to the center. We consider that a radius. It goes halfway across the circle, has a point on the circle, and then it goes to the center. So then what is A to C? Let's highlight. A to C is a chord because it starts and stops in the circle, but since it's a chord that goes through the center, we're going to call that more specifically a type of diameter. It is a chord, but more specifically, it's a type of diameter. And then what is B to E? Starting at B and then stopping at E, but that starts and stops in the circle, but it doesn't go through the center, so we're just going to call that a chord. C to D is going to be a radius. It starts on the circle and stops at the center. And then A to E is also going to be, let's see, starting at A. Now this is a part of that pink line, but it's the segment that exists on that, so that is just going to be a chord. As a chord. So now we've used all of our green in the word bank. Now let's look at the different things that are marked as arcs. Here's an arc, 2 letters, both of those. An arc with 3 letters, that's going to be important in a second. Another arc with 3 letters, and another arc with 3 letters. Remember that to name you know what, we've already done blue, so let me switch colors there. Let's go to a different, let's go to dark blue. There's my arcs. So all of these in dark blue are going to be arcs. We learned about 3 different types of arcs. And thankfully it has the word arc in it. We learned about minor arcs. We're going to use 2 letters to name minor arcs. We're going to use 3 letters to name major arcs. And we're going to use 3 letters typically to name semicircles. You could technically do 2 or 3. But all of these are going to be our arcs. So major arc, minor arc, and semicircle, all of those are our arcs. And so what is A to B? Well, immediately you should know that since it just uses 2 letters, from A to B, that's the shortest distance from A around the outside of the circle to B. Whenever you do an arc, it should only be on the outside of the circle, so we should not be using any internal points or external points outside of the circle. So you should only be using A, E, C, and B. And so from A to B is the shortest distance. That is going to be a minor arc. That is minor. If you wanted to go the other way around, you'd have to use one of the other letters, like AEB or ACB. But A to B is going to be a minor arc. It measures less than 180. Less than 180 degrees. Whereas a major arc is going to be more than 180 degrees. What is a semicircle? A semicircle is going to be equal to 180 degrees, half of a circle. So what is B to E? B to E, starting at B. So let's highlight that. Starting at B, shortest distance around the outside of the circle to E is also going to be a minor arc. So we have two minor arcs there. Those are named with two letters, so I know that I did that correctly. Minor arc. I went the correct direction. Now what about A to C to E? So I'm going to highlight that. Starting at A, going through C first before I get to E. I know I couldn't go the other direction because that would have been A through E through C. So starting at A, going through C, and then stopping at E. Notice that that's the order in which they name them, A to C to E. That would be a major arc. That is major. It's named with three letters, and we know that that's more than 180 degrees. From A to B to C would be a semicircle, so since you went even further, it has to be more than 180 degrees. Okay, now I want you to pay attention because this one goes the next direction, so I'm going to kind of get rid of some of this so you can see. They just gave us ACE, and then they give us AEC, so starting at A and then hitting E first before I wind up at C. What is that? Well, here's a diameter in the circle that goes through point D, which is my center. We've already covered that. And so since that is a diameter, that means that this is going to be a semicircle. It is exactly 180 degrees. Okay? All right? So they're using a lot of the same letters to make sure that you know the difference between these. Now instead of ACE or AEC, they say I want you to start at E, go through A, and then stop at C. So starting at E, first going through A, and then stopping at point C, that is going to be short of a full circle. We are going to call that a major arc. It's more than 180 degrees. Okay? So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with these few, which are all going to be types of angles. Angle ADB, angle CDB, and angle AEB. What are the two different types of angles we learned about? We learned about central angles, which I know come out of the center, and then we learned about inscribed angles where all 3 points are on the circle. So I'm going to draw a little picture of that for myself so whenever I'm looking for it. A central angle comes out of the center, where an inscribed angle has all 3 points of the angle on the circle. It goes all the way across the circle. We call that like our slingshot. So central angle comes out of the center, inscribed angle, all 3 points around the circle. So let's go ahead and highlight angles C to D to B. So starting at C, going to D, and then creating an angle with point B. So D is the vertex. Since D is in the middle of that circle, it's the center, this is going to be a central angle because it comes out of the center. Okay, now let's look at A to D to B. Starting at point A, going to point D as a vertex, and then going to the outside of the circle, point B. That again is going to be a central angle because point D is a center. So that is going to be a central angle. And then last but not least, we have angle AEB. So starting at A, having E as a vertex, which is on the circle, B with a vertex, which is on the circle. All 3 of these are on the circle. This stretches all the way across the circle. That makes this an inscribed angle. That is an inscribed angle. Okay, apparently I missed highlighting one. Let's do one more. Angle EBD. So starting at E, going to point B, then to D, E to B to D. We know that that is going to be, since its vertex is on the circle, that is also going to be an inscribed angle. Okay, point D, we know that that line could continue, and that would intercept that arc. And so that is going to be an inscribed angle. So that is our first section of vocabulary. I will do a new video for the next part.